Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is On Point. I am Jerome Gamer, your host, with my co-host, Mr. Michael Padmore. Today we have uh, a platitude of events going on in Liberia that my brother and I are going to be discussing. We'll be joined later on by Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Mr. Padmore, how are you doing? And how's everything in the beautiful city or state of Minnesota?
Thank you, thank you. I'm doing well. The family is well. It's a beautiful day out here in Minnesota, um, and we're just enjoying the summer. As you know, winter comes quickly for us, so we take all our summertime, and so it's a great day. It's a great day to be here, and I look forward to the discussion.
Beautiful. Now, Liberia has been on fire lately. Literally, no pun intended. We have the the new chairman of the Unity Party, his house, well, not his house, but the boys' quarter on his compound caught fire. Is this a foul? I mean, we want to say whether it's foul play. Did the Unity Party get any post convention bounce? You know, in these United States, after every convention from a political party, we gauge whether there's a bounce, whether there is energy. We're going to see whether the Unity Party has surged. And number two on here would be the ANC youth leader was lost, and there was this alarm that went off in Liberia that a young man has been possibly kidnapped and maybe murdered because of the insecurity. Election is coming around, and the alarm was found. The alarm was sounded, and later on we found that he's sounding well back with his family after 24 hours. And we'll go into that. Why is the update on the 26th, July 26th violence, the protest that ended in chaos and complete violence? What has happened to the arrest? Where are the 7 young men and women that were arrested? We'd like to find out and delve into that. And we want to also look at Mayor Koji is in town. He was in Washington, D.C. The State Department, been traveling. And this weekend, he was hosted in Providence, Rhode Island by, I guess, citizens of Liberia and partisans alike. And we heard there was some protests there. We're going to find out how was the protest and what was the message of Mayor Koji. And then more people yesterday under the sycamore tree, we saw people from the different parties, Unity Party, ANC, came over and they say they are youth leaders, zonal leaders, and they switched over to the CDC and they pledged their support. So let's get going, Mr. Padmore. From your vantage point, welcome, Mr. Jimmy Eastman.
Welcome. Hi, guys. How you doing?
We're doing very well. I know you're in the nation's capital. You're looking good. Where are you calling from? Are you in D.C.? Are you in Virginia? Where are you?
I'm in a town called Woodbridge.
Oh,
Going south. When you're leaving the city, you're going past the 95. You go down 95 after you get out of what we used to call, I forgot it was an old prison, but now there's a big development, so a lot of new houses. But it's wonderful being here with you, gentlemen. I know I'm getting the tailwind of some of the news, but I'll let y'all lead, and I'm looking forward to a very, very strong conversation.
Yeah, let me brief you real quick. The first topic here is the Unity Party's chairman's house was gutted by fire and other current issues. We want to know whether foul play, and then we want to know whether the Unity Party had a bounce after the convention. You know, in the United States, after every political party's convention, we gauge whether there is a bounce based on energy, enthusiasm, and all of that. So we're gonna discuss that. We are also going to be discussing there were a lot going on here when we're talking about the opposition. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Pat.
The ANC youth.
Yeah, the ANC youth, the young man. Yeah, he got lost and found. We want to know what's going on there. We
Mayor
also
Koji.
go ahead. We're going to Mayor Koji is in town.
Yeah.
He was hosted by the Providence, Rhode Island folks, and we want to find out how did that go. We heard there was some protests. We want to know how did the protest go, because they were doing a lot of fundraiser, and we heard that there were going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of folks out there to make sure that they gave him a baptism by fire. We're going to see whether that happened. So this is where we are now, Mr. Padmore.
Yes,
You take the lead here. You and I, we are in the United States. We are very, very active in party politics.
Yes.
We follow the Democrats, we follow the Republican, we follow sometimes independent candidates. After every convention, there is something called a bounce. That can be told by energy, enthusiasm, and how the people feel out there. So we're gonna delve into that. But most importantly, let's start first with this thing that they call arson attack on the chairman's property. Talk to me about. I mean, you have your choice here. You can take it from the arson standpoint, or we can go to the.
Yes, I will. Okay. I definitely will. So first things first is that let's keep in our prayer the child that was injured during that horrific incident. And we hope that they're okay. We hope that the injuries are minor and that they will make a full recovery. With that being said, when I first heard the news, I didn't think it was arson, but I wasn't on the ground. But people have been able to lay out certain things, certain patterns, and certain events that have happened quite recently that try to make their case that it's arson. I will say I hope it is. I don't have any information to think that it is arson. I hope it is not arson. We don't need political violence of such kind in our country, of any kind in our country. We still have a very fragile peace, and we are a baby democracy. This is going to be our second attempt at going to the ballot box and democratically electing a president, and hopefully having a peaceful turnover. It is extremely important because not only we can't just do this one time. We have to create a pattern, a system that we do it, that the younger people see us doing it, and then they follow the trend of it. And for too long, the trend has been, something happens, somebody steal the election, ballot box says something happened, and then all of a sudden you have some insurrection of some kind. And we need to get off that trend. We need to move away from that trend. And so it is extremely important that we have a peaceful election. I'm hoping this is not, and I hope it was an accident. The government has said that they're going to investigate. I don't have a lot of hope in the investigation methods and prowess of the government. They have never shown one time where they can actually investigate an incident and come to a conclusive, understanding, acceptable answer. So it is what it is. But like I said, I'm hoping it is not.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. As I follow the news and listen to Mr. I think his name is Mr. Tappet. I think his name is. When he was interviewed by our correspondent on the ground, they asked him, how did the fire start? He said the fire started in the garage. And the follow-up question was, did you call the fire department? He said, no, but my neighbors did. And he went on. He said he didn't want to jump to conclusion, but he felt that it was strange that the fire started in his garage. So here we are. When the news came out, the population saw it as the chairman's house is on fire. But that was also misleading because it was the boys' quarter. At the boys' quarter, it was the boys' quarter that caught fire. So this thing about they burned down the chairman's house was false from the beginning. In fact, he said my mansion was not touched. I don't know what preacher got mansion in Liberia, but that's what he said. So you talk to me. If it's an arson, why would it start in a garage? It starts slow, and the owner of the house didn't call the fire department and say my neighbor said he called.
Well, I don't know. It's pretty coincidental that as soon as he becomes the elected chairman of the UP party, not quite 2 weeks later, this thing happens to his household. And I did get some information that well, there were no electricity working. He was using solar panel, so we can't say it was an electrical started by an electrical fault. And we have to wait and see what kind of investigation goes on. But let me bring this into focus. Let me bring it into focus, Mike and Jerome. There's been a series of fires in Liberia, and in each case I've read about, fire service was not available or not there. It is clear and apparent that our response to fire, these incendiaries, is not adequate. More will happen. We're seeing this on a increasing basis. How many do we have the requisite equipment? Do we have the trained personnel? If we don't, I think we in the diaspora, we need to rally and see if we can provide fire trucks for our people, our country, because I think there's a lacking somewhere. It's very obvious there's a lacking. So why don't we see what we can do? There are several old trucks here that people are willing to give away if you make the right gesture. But definitely, the issue is becoming more and more prevalent, and if we don't address it, we may lose more lives. You know, I heard two little children got killed in four. How many? Four?
Three children.
Three little children got killed in another incident.
They got killed or they got injured?
No, they were killed.
They were killed.
Died in the fire.
Okay.
Yes. So this is something has becoming increasingly concerning, and we need to get together and let's see if we can get some trucks over there for the fire service, because more people will die. More people will die, and then we need training. With everything can come training. I don't know how well our people are trained in fire investigations and all of that to ascertain the source of these things. But I think this is a good place where we can all put hands together and see if we can bring some small fire service to Liberia, at least in the Monrovia environs. Once upon a time, we used to have a truck right on Ashman Street there, or that front street, front of Ashman, and we used to have some services by I know the mansion had its own service, RIA. But it has never been that adequate. But to now that we have much more, we have triple the amount of people in Liberia. Those few trucks are not going to be adequate anymore. We need to, this is a need that has to be addressed. I think it's a national need, and we all need to put together and do something different.
Let me if I could come in here. Here's the issue here. This issue here, Jimmy. There's no plan. There's no plan. If I ask you right now, who is the fire chief? Nobody know who the fire chief is. Okay, if you are a fire chief, you put together a plan. You have, if Sir Joseph, who is a senator, can come to the US, create networks, come in the Liberian communities, speak to Liberian leaders, be introduced to people. Say, my people here, we're looking for so and so thing. You know what I mean? Network with the people. Show people that you're even interested. Nobody. I live in Minnesota. I've never seen the fire chief here before. Never, not one time. You know, it's like if you don't want the job, then leave it. Let somebody else take the job. Who wants the job? You know, who wants the job? And that person can take the initiative to every time we have to take the initiative. Why can't the person who is being paid to do a job take the initiative and then see our response? They tell one of the fire truck the parking job, yeah. That new I pay fire seven. So the day call for bay, we have a mansion catch on fire. Then the fire truck is there, ready to go. Come on now.
But listen, Mr.
That way it is. That's exactly where the truck is.
Okay. Listen to this. Mm-hmm. First of all, I know we're going to come back to the alleged arson, but let's look at the fire service and the layout of the city. I think a year or 2 years ago, when the Islamic school caught on fire.
That's right.
The fire department was there, but could not access the place because where it was built. Okay, you have to go between homes and all of that. So this is what we are talking about when we talk about property identification system, which requires that every block that is said to be integrates, where we have, in fact, if you had a fire truck and you don't have fire hydrants, that means the fire truck has to go get water from either the Dew River or somewhere, come and use it, then go back and get refill. So what we are talking about, you're talking about system, Mr. Padmore, I think you are right. We are talking about a holistic, like the foot did in Lagos. They look at the city of Lagos and say, you know what, there's nothing we can do with this city anymore. We need to rally around and build a new city.
Yeah.
I think we in the diaspora that know better should say to our legislative bodies, listen, there's no way you can patch Monrovia. You can't. We need, I think the fire department would do better in Habel. They would do better maybe in Bombing, where everything is spread out, is not developed. When you will get to it, you will get to a home better than going to a house where, in fact, if there's a fire in my area in Tingle Village where I live, when I called the fire department, they will ask me, where do you live? Where is your house in Tingle Village? For me to direct a fire department to my own house in Tingle Village. So this is where we are when we are talking about fire service. Without fire hydrant, without access to water, and without access to the actual home address where you can tell, because the fire department could be driving around, or they're asking people where the fire is, or they will say, follow the smoke. And I mean, you know, this is embarrassing for us to be saying this on international forum where people are listening to us, 200-year-old nation. So maybe it's about time that we say, you know what? Let us now start thinking about starting somewhere anew, where we plan the city, do it into grids, and start eventually giving incentive for people to move. Other than that, we are spinning our wheel. I'm here at the Fire Academy in Florida, where they have given Elite Grand Bassa County 5 scholarships to come to the Fire Academy for 13 months. Okay, that 13 months will include EMT, emergency medical technicians, and all of that. So the whole 9 years, and then if you want to do the fire science, it's 3 years. So I was able to secure that. But Liberia is so centralized that the guys in Bassa, they are not independent. The city or the city of Buchanan and the county of Bassa cannot send their own fire department. They have to go through Central Monrovia, and then they do that. So, you know, I think, Mr. Padmore, you talk about a decentralization of our government. This is what we are talking about, that everything has to go through central government, and eventually has to go through the imperial president. He has to, you know, this is what we are talking about. So yes, while we are talking about it, we need help. We need help, but we actually need to tackle the issue, which is city planning. When you go to the Boys Town, going to Habel, the city spur, they're not even building according to blocks. And I mean, they're just building. And now Monrovia is basically going to be connected to Habel very soon with no planning. So we need those of us who know other folks. I think we need to rally. This is no opposition and no imposition issue here. Let our people start talking about actually moving, use Monrovia as a commercial city like they do Lagos, and build the actual capital, which is the political seat of government where things are run. Other than that, we are spinning our wheel.
I
Well,
totally agree. For once.
that's a very ambitious goal, Mr. Gaiman, to build a whole nation capital. Nigeria has a lot of oil money. It is very, very expensive. But even if you build a new place, if there's a lack of organization and lack of system, it will be the same issues will come back up. We have to make an awareness of why we need standards, why we need systems, why things must be the way they are. We have to grow the appreciation for organization and systems. When there's a red light there, you have to stop. A lot of that has been lost over the years due to the war and everything, but it's now time to start re-establishing standards and systems. We are no longer in a recovery stage. Now, I shouldn't say that, but we're no longer in a failed state stage. Now it's time to recover our standards so that the young people will know tomorrow how it should be. But right now, there's not enough examples, and we are not teaching and making everybody aware of it. If there's no system, I don't care. I don't care what you build. We'll come to the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we make our people more aware of the system and how things should be, then they will live up to it themselves. But there has been this gap in where things should be and where things are, and it cannot continue that way. Um, One of the firemen was supposed to be on that scene, but he told me that they had to crown a king before he could go anywhere. So,
Mr. Padmore,
Yes.
here we are when we talk about fire at the chairman's house. In this country, and you know that, and Mr. Eastman, you know that when a crime is committed where our lives are lost, the first thing they want to know, what's the motive?
Yeah.
Who could be
yes.
the culprit? What the motive? Okay, Mr. Tapper just became chair of a political party. Nobody knows him. I don't think I never heard him speak. I don't know who he is.
I know of him.
He's a preacher. They say he's a very good preacher. But he has not been in the political landscape for any period of time. Now, you just came from a very contentious elections where he displaced the wealthiest of the wealthiest in the party, where words were used like basically border racism, where they were calling somebody Syrian, they were calling another person Pakistani, and they didn't want them in the party, and there was some bad blood there going forward. And even when he came onto Spoon, he said the same thing, and he had to take back some of those things. Now, if we are looking at motives, usually, I think Mr. Padmore and Mr. Eastman, you know how it works here. When we start, when it comes to murder, when it comes to crime, they start from within, the immediate family first. Don't you think we should start with the immediate family and say, who have loved to see this guy? Because there are two camps in the opposition camp, in the Unity Party here. The group that was disposed and the group that came in, and they are each other through. So let's look at motive here. Let's take the partisan out of this. If you were an investigator, wouldn't that be your first route?
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead to me.
Definitely, you have to start with these things are not started by people who are unknown, that don't know the victims. It always has to be somebody who knows the victims. somebody in close proximity. Even in a murder investigation, you always start with the closest of kin, the people who are around there every day. It's most likely their involvement and the amount of times murders occur, and it is committed by somebody close to the family is unusually large. So similarly, arson, it has to be somebody. If it was arson, it has to be somebody that was closer or related and with them. And what I do not understand, Miss, you know, arson is something, unless the place is a thatch house, or maybe where you just soon a little fire starts, then it just splinters off. So, and there were no signs of an explosion. I just think there was some carelessness, some candle or something that might have been left off. But at this point, I think it's wrong to speculate that there was some um, evil act committed against the chairman, the new chairman, and he appears to be somebody very eloquent. I think he's the new face of the party and where they might go. But for this to happen, I don't see any real purpose. I don't see any gain. I don't think the CDC needs to get involved. There's nothing for them to fear about the Unity Party. So I discount that some people claim it may be CDC. I totally disagree with that. And what if it's people, his own partisans that he's won? What good will that do by you burning the man house? No, I just think this is a freak of nature, what we need to address is we should have had somebody there to put that fire out before it got too bad.
Mr. Padmore, obviously the chairman says his house was not touched. Nothing was wrong to the house. So we know if there was any issue with electrical, it would have been at a big house where they had the solar panel and everything else. The boys' quarter does not have the solar panel and all of that. So most likely, like he says, they saw it starting in the garage. So for you to have seen it in the boys' quarter in the garage where the cars are parked, most likely it took a while for it to flame into what it was. So I don't know why would someone say it started in the garage where the cars are parked. And the gate is 8 feet, is high. There were no forced entry, none of that stuff. I don't want to say, like we say, we are only speculating here. I don't want to say, well, because he lost the election, those guys are after him, because that's not how it works. Nobody threw like I call it a cocktail,
Molotov
cocktail, nothing of that nature. It started in a garage. Most likely, it may have been an accident. Somebody, like he said, somebody using candle or artificial lantern or something that may have caused that. But we cannot accuse, the folks that he defeated in this, and definitely not the opposition. But I mean, it is mysterious. Hopefully, somebody was on one of the show and said when they called the fire department, maybe this is just a joke. The person said, first of all, we don't have tire on the truck, we don't have gas, and something else, we don't have water. You need to buy gas. You need to do so. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, I understand most of the folks they want to be comical and all of that, but this is a serious issue in our country, the lack of electricity, and people are making do with what they can. And at times, my cousin, Solomon Neal, burned to ashes. He was in an accident in this country, and they took him, he was paralyzed. And they took him home, he was living in Buchanan, and he was reading, and they say he left his candle.
Oh, God.
Okay, he left the candle, and for some reason, the candle melted, and the carpet got on fire. And because he was paralyzed, he could not move. And by the time they got to him, the whole house had burned, and he burned to ashes. So I can personally tell you how dangerous these things are, Mr. Patmore Charming.
Yes, I mean, people will speculate because, the atmosphere is political. and people will point at CDC because CDC is an easy target. If the roles were reversed, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Obviously, I have to
Yeah,
attest.
if the roles were reversed,
we did it. We did it.
We did it. You know what I mean? Everything at Ellen fault. Everything at Ellen fault. So that it's politically charged, and stuff like that. But like I said, we need. There's a lot to do in Liberia, and this is what irks me when I see the president dancing, and then he go play football, and then he go play basketball, and then he go play volleyball. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to do. Too much to do. You shouldn't have time. I'm sorry. I know everybody get a life. I know everybody has to have some sort of mind relaxation, but it's too much. There's too much to do for you to have so much downtime. So much downtime in Liberia. We should be discussing, why are we building ministries in Monrovia? Why are we building ministerial complexes in Monrovia? Send the health department to Lofa. Why is the agricultural ministry in Monrovia? It don't even make sense. The agricultural ministry should be in the Sapo forest somewhere in Grangy there. If you don't work for the Ministry of Agriculture, go live Grangy there. Go live there. That's what the ministry. That way it is. We'll open a small little office in Monrovia just for communication purposes. But put the ministries out of Monrovia. Spread them out. People will follow it. Lands and mines, forestry development. They all in that small little space. But I know we can't just build a city overnight, but there are things we can do, there are steps we can take. We can put a moratorium on building ministries in Monrovia, in government offices. So we're not going to do anymore. We can put zonal things on building homes. Before you put one block in the ground, you must have, and that will do it here. If I want to redo my basement, I have to go to the city, and the city has to come and inspect and approve. If the city doesn't approve, they will heavily fine me for doing such in the neighborhood system. But I know we've kind of exhausted this, but we have to start somewhere. And
I don't think I think you're on point. We also need to transfer some of the responsibilities to the counties, not just the ministries, but the people need to have more voice in what they need. This top-down approach, you have one policy in Monrovia, and everything, all the money has to come from Monrovia. We need to give the counties more autonomy, more ability to raise revenue and address their local issues. We need to make the problems more local. We can have some oversight by government, but definitely we need to transfer that to the counties. And I think we will see much, much more progress than having the bureaucracy in Monrovia and all the different things that are going on in Monrovia responsible for everything. Whereas if we empower these counties to be self-sufficient in certain aspects of that, I would think we will have much, much more progress. I think we'll see people moving out of the city to these counties because it will provide opportunities for industry. It will provide the central bank can be a key issue. I was just talking to a young aspirant of for president. He was talking about how the central bank can create several satellite offices and promote local businesses and industries from those offices. So every county will have its own small bank of central bank, and they are there to promote industry and business. Definitely, we have to decentralize Monrovia. It's not this system. That place was built for 5,000 people. What was the number, Jerome?
That's right.
How much?
20,000. Yeah.
20,000. You got now. You got what? 1.5 million.
1.5 million. Yeah. So
It's ridiculous.
This is what, and I agree with Mr. Patmore wholeheartedly, because just imagine if you move the Ministry of Agriculture to Bond County, right, or Norfolk County.
Yeah.
That ministry has about 5,000 employees.
Yes.
If you take those 5,000 and their extended family, you build a city out there, plant it. You know, like we say, you plant a very nice city in Bond County, and you move that 5,000 folks and everybody else that follow them, the economy that comes along with that, and you don't worry about that. And you take the Ministry of Health, you take it to Grand Bassa County, and do the same thing. You are basically decentralizing everything. That is a way, hopefully, policy people are listening. But let's go into the next phase of this particular question, which is the bounce. Mr. Patmore, I know you were a member of ANC and all of that. Have you seen anything that resembles a bounce or enthusiasm on the side of the Unity Party that translate into wealth, into money, into goodness, into vibrancy? Are you seeing anything that we can say Unity Party has a little bounce, even though we don't have any figure, but you can feel it in the streets, you can feel it in the partisan, you can feel it on the internet by raising money and all that. What is the bounce like for Unity Party or Bond County?
As a member of the opposition, new leadership in Unity Party, it created a sense of hope. The Ami Modars and the Mo Alis were in Unity Party and a part of the CPP when there was a lot of toxicity going on. This is fresh, new leadership. Nobody never caused their man before. They ain't get no grudge. So for us in the opposition, we saw it as, hopeful. That if there's an opportunity for the opposition to unite, here is an opportunity, when you have fresh faces. And so that's what we're hopeful for. As per a bounce, I really didn't see any bounce. I didn't really see anything. I didn't see the enthusiasm. I didn't see, this new wave of energy within the Unity Party. No, I saw more of a troubled turnover, some shakiness, and everybody waiting to see how things will settle. And like you said, nobody knows this guy, so everybody trying to see, what's going to be his first move. At least what I've seen, so far, he has not said anything condemning of the other political parties. Ami Modad, Mo Ali, they wouldn't even call Musa Belete chairman of the Liberty Party. That's how toxic it was. This new guy, he said, yeah, Musa Belete chairman of Liberty Party. And we'll work with Liberty Party. So it's refreshing. But that bounce, that energy, what we expect, no, nothing.
Mr. Eastman, from what Mr. Patmore is saying, we got a clean slate here. This group of people coming in gives a sense of hope that if we really mean well and we want to make president, we are a one-term president, this is an opportune time for us to have a new breed of folks coming in and hopefully can unite the opposition. Like he said, the Supreme Court has ruled that Musa Belete is a legitimate chair of Liberty Party. We are a nation of law. When the opposition wins the election, like Dara Dillon won, Yodi Kanga won, all the opposition were winning, they accepted the Supreme Court's ruling, no problem. But when the Supreme Court ruled that Musa Belete is the legitimate chair, they followed the rules and did everything that they need to go through him to make things happen, then they said, no, he is not the chair. In fact, they had Liberty Party, Buchanan, Liberty Party, which is not true. So we got a clean slate here. Mr. Padme said there may not have been a bounce per se to see the enthusiasm, but he's looking behind he sees some silver lining in this cloud.
Yes, definitely. The Unity Party looks like they want to go in a different direction. The party of Kessley, you know, it is about time that the old guard move on now and provide the youth. You know, one ill I see in many of these political parties, I do not see anybody grooming the young gods, the young people to take over the party. It's supposed to be a successive thing. It's supposed to be about concept, ideas, a vision, and things that you want to implement. And as one leadership gets old, the next younger generation supposed to take up the baton and carry it. It shouldn't. It shouldn't end with one person, and that is what we haven't been doing. From my observation, is grooming future partisans for leadership. You know, it has always been only about um, the standard bearer and that hierarchy. It doesn't go down to training and breeding new. I think that's a very bad mistake we make because for you to propagate the beliefs of a party and a vision, you have to train the young people. You have to keep on transferring that knowledge. You have to keep on uh, moving the message along to the subsequent generations. So I think this may be good for the Unity Party. I don't think it will have any effect on this coming election whatsoever. Okay, but for the future of the party, bringing in a fresh leadership, you know, it's a change in direction, which I think is positive if they can rekindle the message, the initial message of the Unity Party, the ideas that Kessley and his colleagues had conceived in the beginning. But I think that message has been lost over the years, and now we just see, you know, um, the old guard. It's time for them to move out.
Thank
So
you.
I think this is a good start.
Thank you. We have exhausted. We spent a lot of time on it. Let's go to the next topic here. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the first topic was very, very heavy because when we talk about succession plan, every organization should have a succession plan, and the future is in the younger folks. We cannot, sit on the leadership at the age of 90, 80, and say we are the future of the country. It's impossible. You got young, we are brilliant between the ages of 30 and 50. We are at our best. And then wisdom coming between 60 and 70. Beyond that, we have to have a team, a solid crack team to follow us through, because that's just the nature. That's how it works. So here we are. Lately, there's a firestorm in Monrovia that a youth leader of the ANC. Some people say he got kidnapped. Some people say he was possibly murdered, and there was a firestorm out there. I heard they even woke the president up that there was fire in the hole in Monrovia. Later on,
no sleeping.
It was found. The young man was found that actually somebody saw him in Brewerville somewhere. With excuse the language, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to denigrate women, but the term used was he was in Brewerville somewhere with his iron titty. That's what they said. That means he left his wife, left his family, and went and moved with his concubine. And there was the whole firestorm about the young man had been kidnapped and all of that, only to be found that he was hiding with his significant other. And his excuse was that his phone was lost charge. He couldn't charge. There was no electricity. So he went dark for 25 hours. So Mr. Padmore.
That's CDC fault, no electricity.
Mr. Padmore, the ANC has this reputation of blaming the government for everything. The last time Somebody.
Okay, go ahead. You got it?
Yeah, somebody guy. The guy said he shot himself in the leg. You remember last year sometime, he shot himself in the leg and said somebody hijacked him and he got shot. And then when they did the investigation, found out that he was fooling around with a gun, he shot himself in the leg. And he claimed there was another guy who said he was kidnapped and they put something on his nose and they took him to Ganta and all that other stuff. And it was the government. So tell me, what is the ANC strategy here? Is there a strategy of fear mongering that the country is saying? What is the strategy for the ANC? Mr. Padmore, you are a strategist. Tell me, be honest with us. What is your strategy?
So in all honesty, let's be serious here for a second. I'm delighted that the young gentleman, I won't say it was fun because he wasn't lost in the first place, but that he's okay. I'm delighted that he is okay. That being said, sadly, we find ourselves in a country, in an environment where people actually end up dead, turn up dead, and nothing ever happens. Nothing happens. The investigation never ends. There is no conclusion. Nobody goes to court. Nobody goes to jail. People just die, and they bring all kind of. I mean, we dance the whole dance for 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. They bury the person, and that's it. And because we find ourselves in such an environment, when we can't find people, especially people that delve into politics and things like that, we panic. And it's sad. It's sad that we find ourselves in that kind of environment. It shouldn't be. It should not be. We should be in an environment where we can feel safe. To say, no man, that foodie boy, he was so sure somewhere, but our mind goes from A straight to Z. And we panic, and we start looking, we start calling the government. My man, call your people, maybe one of the beginning and do something again. All the kind of, I remember 1980, after the coup, a lot of things happened in Liberia that was not ordered by the PRC. People did their own things, thinking it was pleasing. I will please the president. Whatever, 1985, a lot of people got missing. That had nothing to do with Samuel Doe, but people wanted to please the president. It's sad that we find ourselves in that area again where, we have people, people ask me, July 26th, do I think that Josh Weah ordered these kids to go? And no, I know. Anybody who knows Josh Weah know that Josh Weah didn't do that. Let's be honest, he didn't. But there are people under him who do things thinking that, it will please the president. When Isaac Topa was trying to cross the border and he got arrested, people called the minister of state and said, you need to call your people before something happened to Isaac. That fearful people were. And the minister of state had to order and said, nobody will touch Isaac. You're bringing back to Monrovia. We need to grow out of this. We need to grow out of this. The Americans did a tussle, did a turn, did a cuss each other and things like that. But you don't find presidential candidates getting missing. You don't find people going missing, and stuff like that. And when so that's where I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming from. You're still muted. That's where I'm coming from. That we find ourselves in such a
Mr. Eastman.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Mr. Padmore. He's getting dizzy from spinning. You can see he's the best spin doctor. He can't spin himself out of this. Tell me, don't look at him because you may be dizzy. He's a very good spinner. He's spinning. Now tell me, this lady, Attorney Yakula, went on the air and said, is there a coincidence that the chairman of the Unity Party house got burned down, and all of a sudden the youth leader was going to the headquarters, between the headquarters to his house, he disappeared. We are afraid that we may find him in pieces and all that. Only to find out that a young man was having a merry time, having a great time somewhere. So what is this? What is this fear mongering that is going on? Is this how you're going to win the election?
Madam Yekula is very good at gaslighting. She's a brilliant woman, and she knows how to. She loves politics, and she knows how to rub the salt in a person's wound when when that happens. But I think Mr. Padmo did touch on an issue, especially when he mentioned that during 1980 and 1985. Because we had a situation there where there was chaos, bad actors under the shadow of chaos were able to do things that were not ordered or endorsed by anybody. They take advantage of the chaos that's going on and to do what they want to do. And for me, what the real issue is, let's face it, murders, people die in every country. Liberia death rate is not alarming. Every death is important, but we don't have an over alarming rate that would say, hey, what's going on? But what is giving rise to this fear and this lack of security is the response of the law to these incidences. You see, whenever you don't professionally go after something or nothing is seen that you are doing, people have the concept that they have no security around them. Even if that man had died from natural causes, even if it was something that wasn't preventable. The fact that the way we treat things in a way shows that there's a lack of security. You have to give people a sense that you are professionally performing your duty, especially when it comes to law enforcement, before they will have a sense of security. And that is what's going on. This young man been missing for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden, and they blow alarm. Well, because we've dropped the ball in other incidences, like the accountants that were found in the car, and all of those. There were some incidences that we didn't really do it, go about it professionally. So now people suspect the legal system. They don't trust it as much. We have to rebuild confidence in our judicial, in our police systems. It is essential for the safety of the public, for the conscience of the public. And to do that will require people, again, meeting the standards, performing duties the way they should. I know there's a lot of logistics the police face with. Sorry, Mr. Cooney, but he would be one of good. But the legal system is probably faced with several constraints due to lack. But if we do not address any happenings, if we do not address it properly, that's when we'll always have this speculation that people just dying all over, because we're not being accountable for those ones that do die. We're not treating it in a professional way and providing the transparency we need so that people will be comfortable.
Okay, Mr. Eastman, when you're talking about security of the state, you live in the Washington, D.C. area where the homicide is everywhere. We just saw somebody just ram into the Capitol, kill himself, shot at the White House. We just saw Salman Rushdie, the writer, the greatest poet, got stabbed on stage in New York City. We've seen people shooting in the supermarket, in the synagogue, in the church. This is what happens in an open society. So we cannot blame everything on the government. We can't blame everything on it. Like the president
Mr.
said.
Gilman, come on now.
Like the president said, the security of the state depends on everybody. When Rushdie was being stabbed in New York, the citizens, before the police could get there, the citizens from the audience converged on stage and grabbed this young man and held him down and called, and the people called for the police. So these things happen in a society, in a city built for 20,000 to have 1.5 million folks. We have to be security. We have to help our government. We have to help our preachers. We have to help our mosques. We all have to be part of the cleaning of the city. We got to be part of the security system. We have to do all of those things in addition. So this is where we are at this point when it comes to the state. I know we have spent a lot of time on most of these things and we're running out of time here. We're going to come back today when we have time. But let's go to the July 26th celebration incident, the violence that happened July 26th, where there were clashes all over the place, and a young man was severely brutalized, and we all condemn that. That's not how we want our democracy to work, and we said it. These young folks, they say they come from Soup. Soup, from what I understand, has over 300 members, and we had 27 folks going out to call themselves militants, and they are protesting. I don't think the number alone will have scared anybody to say we are going after them. So I think that those guys, COP, CDC, COP, I think they were in it wrong for following these young folks. And I think the president was right when he said, in our charter, I am the founding father of the CDC. There is no COP, CDC in our charter. Anybody that follows me, that have my name or my face on anything, have to follow the rule of thumb, which is peace. I'm a peaceful man. I'm a peace-loving man. If you follow me, you have to follow my footsteps. So here we are. Now we want to know, do you have anything, Mr. Eastman, on the whereabouts of these young folks that were arrested? Where are they now? What is the update? Are they in jail? Were they bailed out? Are there people still on the loose? What is the outcome? Where are we now with this violence?
Okay, first of all, I think I'm happy that the president finally acted in that way, because initially what we saw was a bad reflection. It may not have, I don't believe the president ordered it. I think, just like Michael was saying, some people doing things to impress somebody, but though that was the worst thing they could do, because that was going to bring down the status of the government. First of all, our rights to protest have to be protected. This is the only way we will be able to express our dissatisfaction with something. If you're going to suppress protest, then you are suppressing freedom of speech. And that can only be up until a certain time, because when people notice that they are being oppressed, they will have a different reaction over time. Number two, this thing was avoidable. The soup were in one location. The other people were in another location. The police has to be more proactive. They should have gotten between them and protected each group from each other. Again, like I said, I'm not blaming government. I'm just trying to say, how can we avoid these things in the future? You have to be more up to the task of preventing them. We should have prevented it. And when we saw policemen on the scene in uniform doing nothing to help somebody in distress. You and I know, you talk about being in the U.S. There will not be a policeman somewhere and somebody is being attacked and he does nothing at all. He will either call for backup, he will try to intervene or something. We saw the policeman do nothing. And that is scary. because they're supposed to protect us. Again, it's not, I don't blame them. I believe sometimes you have to train, you have to talk about these things so that people know exactly what their duty are. We can never allow freedom of expression be suppressed. And I'm glad the president took the action he did, because this was some irresponsible people. But here, where I want to see in the end, I want to see somebody. I saw some suspensions in the police, okay? But I want to see that those people that were arrested, I want to see I want to see justice done. I don't want to see them just simply released, because that's the only way we'll discourage this sort of action. If we do not punish it, reason we have so much impunity in our little country is because we do not punish wrong action. So if we would want to discourage this from happening again, we have to punish this sort of action. Soup itself has been those are certain things not becoming, but they should be protected from their for the right freedom of speech.
Mr. Padmore, we saw the letter from the international community says that those who instigated these young folks should be held accountable, and those who are the perpetrators should be accountable. Where are we when it comes to how do we define perpetrators and instigators?
I went to good school. Okay. I went to good school.
CWA, the instigators here?
I went to good school.
Okay, I'm asking you.
So the Queen's language is at my behest.
Okay, let's do it.
Just because they use two different identifying nouns doesn't mean that those two groups or those two blamers of people can't come from the same side. It doesn't mean that the instigator and the perpetrator can't come from the same side. These are not opposing forces, as the government and the CDC is trying to spin that, since they use two different words of identifiers, that means that one side was instigating, the other side was perpetrating. No, let's stop that. The first thing is that I sincerely believe the only reason why the president came out and spoke, because somebody, diplomacy, we all know how diplomacy works. The international community reached out to the president and say, we are very displeased with what happened, and we are going to come out with a press statement. And so the president's team say, you know what, we have to get ahead of this thing. If we sit down and wait for the international community to release their statement, anything we say after it, we will only be seen as, as we are reacting instead of proacting. And so that's why the president came out and talked that. That was a bunch of lip service. Let's be honest here. Okay? Look, I know Jimmy said he's not blaming the government. I blame the government. I blame the government. We talked a lot since the show started. We talked a lot of things. And this right here, what happened on July 26th, and the aftermath from it is actually a microcosm of everything we've talked about. Okay? Groups of people not under any real direction from the overhead leader are doing things that they believe will please the leader. Okay? And things that are very dangerous, things that can almost take the lives of people. This kid could have died. I've seen people die from less injuries than that. Look, one leg blood clot from his bruises, break off, go to his brain, boom. He would have dropped. He would have been dead before he even hit the floor. That's how serious it is. Okay? What next? There's all this show about arrest and arrest. I can bet my bottom dollar right now the case finna die. You are not here, but this case again. It finished. Like we've moved on. Ben Togba and Fode Masekwe and all these guys, Barry, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen again. The government will continue to investigate. These guys will remain out on bail and will go into the political season and the case will move on. This is what I'm saying. Nothing ever happens. And because nothing ever happens, the people don't trust the government. So when somebody goes missing, people say, no, we have to get out and talk about it. Because if they don't kill him yet, maybe when we get out and talk about it, wherever they're holding him, they will release him. That is how fearful people are. You know, the government needs to do something. They say, the case not that.
Right.
The case is dead.
Mr. Eastman, just before we go to the mayor, the Lord Mayor Jefferson Koji is
removed from his position.
The Lord Mayor Jefferson Tamakoji is at the State Department. Yesterday he visited Providence, Rhode Island. We'll come to that. But let me throw light on what happened at my church, Eliza Turner AME Church, Camp Johnson Road, Monrovia College. You saw what his soup did to Monrovia College a few days ago.
And he stayed in jail.
They went on campus. On private property, breached the security and began to destroy properties because they felt the young man who was defending his thesis should be expelled because he was involved in the July 26th the violence. Is that how we, for the University of Liberia, the soup, is this how we now take laws into our own hands instead of waiting for the court system to work through? We broke into a university and started destroying properties, throwing stone, and say if Mr. Barry defends his thesis, they will kill him, they will kill anybody else, and they were destroying, throwing stone. What is this thing about soup? I know at one time you were a member of soup. Is this the soup that you were part of, sir?
I did not tell you that. I was a part of the LU when soup was very, very strong. I saw them full view. It's never proper for you to take the law in your own hand. And you know, so the soup has been the vanguard for the issues that affect the common people. They have always championed the cause for the common people. But these acts of vandalism and I've heard another story too as well. This is unbecoming, and this has to be restrained. And it has to be addressed. This is something they should have called the students' leadership. The soup leadership should have been called in by the police or the whatever authority, and say why this is going on. It has to be curtailed, and those people can be spoken to. They can be reined in, but again, we have to know how to address it. It never is never a time for violence in Liberia. We have to be very, very careful. We have a fragile democracy, and we need to be able to come to the negotiation table instead of resorting to violence at all times in all conditions.
Mr. Patmore. Go ahead. No, land. Let me say. Okay, Mr. Patmore. Real quick, I know. Did you go to the University of Liberia?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Mr. Eastman, will you listen, because we are. You know, the University of Liberia is supposed to be an institution of higher learning, of intellect, of knowledge. Liberia, we are mimicking the capitalist system of the United States. We want to be little America like everybody. We have the whole system. We have the whole package. How does a group that considers themselves talking to the international community, especially the Western society, go to the U.S. MSA and say, I'm comrade this, I am from the Student Politburo, I mean, we are talking about the United States. The Western society is at war presently with Russia. And you are coming as a communist to the American embassy and say, I am from the soup. I represent the Politburo of the University of Liberia, and these are my comrades with me. How does this, Mr. Padmo, tell me here, you didn't go to night school. Tell me, you and Alari talk about you are advising these kids. They are going to the U.S. Embassy, they're going to the European Union, and they are going, presenting themselves as members of the Politburo, and they are comrades in arms. I mean, tell me, how does this fit with their protests? Do they understand the geopolitics? Do they understand world affairs? Do they understand what's going on at this particular point? When Russia and the United States, they are each other's throat, and you go into the U.S. Embassy and say, I am a member of the Politburo, and these are my comrades, and we are militants from the soup. Tell me, how does that job? Are you miseducating these folks here?
No, they are young people. They are young people. So young people explore things. Young people take different avenues. That's why, as older folks, we have to guide them. So you don't shut them down. You allow them to express themselves. And when they're done expressing themselves, then you educate them. So what the message the U.S. government is sending to them is that no matter what you call yourselves, you still have a freedom to express yourself. That's the message. Of course, we're not going to call you somebody has called me comrade before. I corrected him. I said, Chia, now you're comrade. Yeah, I do not subscribe to the communist agenda. And most people that use that word right now, because even seditions use that word, they call each other comrade. They don't even know what it means. They don't even know it means comrade. And they don't even know what comrade means. They don't even know the genesis of it. They don't know. They just use it because they heard the guy before them use it, and the guy before them use it, and the guy before them. Soup, that's how soup is. Soup starts, if you're going to talk, you know there's a soup party in Tottenham High? That's where they start to recruit from. Before you get to LU, they have already recruited you, and they're calling you comrade. So people just, and that's how we don't brutalize our young people. We give them a space for them to speak. And then once they have spoken, we correct what needs to be corrected. We encourage what needs to be encouraged, and we move forward. That is how we respond to it. That is how we respond to it, sir.
Mr. Eastman, are you comrade? Are you comrade from the Politburo?
I like this topic, this particular topic, because not only did I live through the emergence of this socialist movement. I was right there in LU. I lived among it. We had debates. We used to talk. Larry took my comrade. All those guys. We used to talk. We used to talk. I don't mind the word.
Mr. Padmo, you hear him? You hear Mr. Eastman said as his comrade. You hear that?
Yes. And I want to tell you something. I noticed revolutionaries, people who want to change their government, they want to fight for the cause. They love to use the revolutionary rhetoric of old. I think about the Bolshevik revolution in Russia. Yeah. Even the French Revolution, they had the same militancy. So every time, it is not something uncommon that militancy is adopted to bring about a change. But the essence of revolution, to me, is being lost. You want to change things when you want a revolution, not doing the same thing, not replacing somebody else and doing the same thing they were doing. That is not a revolution. And this is what I've seen. I was also witness to the Marxist revolution in Ethiopia, where those guys tried to implement Marxism to the letter. You had to be at a certain place 6 o'clock in the evening to be in meeting in your quarters. It was strict Marxism, Marxist Lenin doctrine that they embraced. And you know what happened? The man fled the country, took money, and left thousands and thousands of dead from it. I don't understand, how is this a revolution when all they want was money? If you're going to have a revolution, you mean you want to change the way things are being done. You want to believe in certain principles. Have you established those principles?
Nope.
Just having somebody correct things in the government is not a revolution. I think we're wrongly using these words today. They're just thrown out there. I understand the young youth and the romance between all this militancy. I understand it, but we have to be more than just words. We have to be the embodiment of what we believe in. When the 1980 revolution happened, we walked though from the LU to the camp to the mansion. But Doe turned around and was worse than the very people he killed. So this revolution thing, I don't like to hear it if you're not really a revolutionary, but only one position to do the same worst thing to people that other people are doing. If you're going to be that person, that revolutionary, means you have to be like that to the letter. Okay, it's not about you. It's about the people, getting them benefits and believing in it. Not just chanting in the streets and calling somebody comrade and Politburo. I don't subscribe to any socialism or to any form of capitalism. I will always employ an economic system that works for my country. That is what was the difference between me and my comrades at the time. I didn't espouse socialism. I just said whatever we need to employ is what we did. I don't need the baggage of the East Bloc. I don't need that baggage, because none of them will help liberate Africa except me, myself. So I don't need to be taking on their names and their terms. I need to be African. And that's how I refer to myself. So it's interesting that 40 years later, they're still doing the same thing.
Still doing the same thing.
Well, I just.
Do you know who are my comrades? Do you know who are my comrades in LU? Samuel Twain, Matano Bill. Those are my comrades. So 1996.
Your guys did. Your guys.
I'm just telling you. Those are my comrades. Those are the people that were pushing for change.
You guys are
doing Those are the people that were causing Chad Taylor.
You are doing very well. You guys are doing very well, your group. But the reason we are concerned about these terminologies, when we find people within the university system that should know better, that wouldn't mentor these kids and say, listen, the world have changed. You need to modify some of these things. Take the best of this and add it here and move on. That's what got this country so great. Everything in the United States, when you talk about socialism, when you talk about Medicare, Medicaid, these are all social safety net that come from the social system. Mm-hmm. But they use it to their advantage for the common good. So I expect people like Larry Tokpa, Dr. Whitey Tenney, and Dr. Gray, and all of those folks from the past who come on and say, listen, young folks, this is how these things should work. You cannot go to a black or historical black church and say, I'm a member of the KKK, and here are my hooves and my. You can't do that. They will burn you in the church. I don't care who you are. So for you to go to the bastion of capitalism, to the American embassy, and say, these are my comrades, and we are students at the Politburo, somebody is not teaching, somebody is not lecturing, it is not intellectual to the core. While we are there, let's transition to the mayor. We're going to go to reading our comments. There are some comments here that we definitely not going to read. I hate for us to ban other people, but the rules of this particular platform. This is intellectual at the highest level. You want to debate Mr. Padmore, you want to debate me, you want to debate Mr. Eastman, you come on here, you can call in, you can do whatever you want, but you can't use vulgarity out here. It is way, 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 way below what we do. You can call me names, you can do whatever, as long as you don't do it on the platform. I mean, we just don't want to block anybody because we want you to come out here and express. But vulgarity is the end of your vocabulary system. If you are at the end of your waist end and you don't have any other means of expressing yourself, you resort to using these kinds of words in the public space. We have children, we have family people, we got clergymen, we got politicians watching, and somebody is using the F words and dropping all these kind of, I mean, it's terrible. This is not how we debate. We don't want that. And if you continue, then we'll just have to block you. And that's how it goes. But let's turn to the Lord Mayor, Mr. Padmore's best friend, a guy from the great city of Monrovia. How do you call it? Christopolis. I'm from Basso. I'm from Canada, so I'm not from Christopolis. You guys are Monrovia boys. His name is the Lord Mayor Koji Jefferson Tama Koji, one of the best mayors of all time in the history of the country. He is visiting the State Department, but he made a pit stop in Providence, Rhode Island last night. And from what I'm seeing here, the security was tight. All the city people, city councilmen, people, citizens show up in mass. It was awesome. What we got to understand prior to that, a week before, the ANC, the how you call your folks, the opposition, whatever left of it, they were on social media raising money that they were going to be protesting in the thousands. When they showed the overview, there were only 3 people. What happened?
First, let's educate our people. So did this program happen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It happened in Providence, Rhode Island. I saw the people arguing with the police. They are saying
the program happened.
Yeah, the program happened, and the people there were 3 people outside that were saying the police should arrest the mayor because he's a murderer, and the police are saying, "Excuse me," and the people are arguing, why will you tell the American police officer to arrest an international visitor? If the crime was committed in Liberia, you want to arrest her in a place. And this lady, there were 3 of them. So what happened to the protest? What happened to the thousands of folks that were supposed to converge from Prophet and Rhode Island?
Well, I don't remember anybody organizing a 1,000-man protest in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is so small. I mean, over 1,000 people even live there. But I think Liberians who wanted to went out there. They voiced their opinions. They voiced their dissatisfaction with their mayor, or the mayor of Monrovia, and they did so in a peaceful manner. And I think it is an example that hopefully Liberians in Liberia watching could see that, yeah, you can do this. And what the security, what the police is supposed to do. So you saw a lot of levels of knowledge being exemplified there, where the police came, they were orderly, they were respectful, they stood between the 2 different parties, they allowed people who wanted to speak and voice their opinion to voice their opinion, and if like you are saying, if the program went on, then they allowed the other people to have their program. I'm hoping that Liberians saw this and they learned something from it. More than anything else, I'm hoping that's what happened.
Mr. Eastman, one of the issues that we have in Liberia is that we have no fear for authority. I saw one video where this girl collar a police officer and threw him to the ground. Okay, obviously our police officers don't have any arms, they don't have any protection. I barely see them with walkie-talkie to call for backup. So here we are at a program yesterday. We saw the city police, uh, well attended, making sure that everybody were there. I guess they may have also gotten the word that the crowd outside was going to be huge, even though it never turned out. But nobody, the few folks that came, they were allowed to say what they had to say. I think one of the ladies had her placard and had a baby on her back. And one was saying to the police, can you arrest the mayor? He committed a crime in Liberia, and there was a dialogue, but there was no friction. After they were leaving, they say, well, if the school district or the county gave them the hall to use, we are going to file a protest against the hall. And the police officer said for them to have had an event here, there might have been a permit. There's a system here. So yes, Mr. Patmore is right to some degree that there were decorum, but also when a police officer is fully armed and in his regalia, that alone sends a signal of authority. And in Liberia, we don't have that. It's not as Joshua fault that the UN decided that, listen, everybody is traumatized. If you get everybody gun, they're going to be going after folks and basically revenge. But Mr. Padmore, Mr. Eastman, the protest that was supposed to be a protest, the atmosphere. My thing is, and I'm dreaming that we can have a hall full of maybe 1,000 folks, opposition and pro, where we can engage our leaders, engage them, ask them hard questions, and hold their feet to the fire, get them on film, get them on recording, get everything on them to be used at a later date. Instead of being outside like the young man is doing on here, using invectives against me and all of that. Why do we behave this way?
The man cussing you?
Yes. I try to be civilized now.
But it was just what I was telling you. We have to raise our standards. It is. I'm not sure the purpose of the mayor's visit to Rhode Island, but there's a lot that he can gain from there. We used to have Twin City Corporation a long time ago, but if you look at the city of Rhode Island, it's way, way older, way, way more advanced than Monrovia City. Okay, it's a metropolis. It's very urban. You don't hardly see a whole lot of buildings. But I'm hoping that the mayor is able to take away a lot of stuff from there, some donations and whatnot. But what I don't understand, Jerome, is the mayor is in charge of Monrovia. And I heard that the other day there was a plea that they didn't have, no one gave them money to be able to clean up the city. That, for me, I want to be honest with you, we have to be empowered. We cannot continually wait for handouts to clean our own place. There's a lot of inherent power in the mayor, and he's a young fella. He should be mobilizing the youth. Why don't we have taxes? Why can't we collect taxes or some kind of things to be able to clean our streets, organize the police, and all of that? We have 1 more million people. If they only just give $1 Liberian dollar, that will go a long way. If 1 more million, $1 Liberian dollar per month, you want to tell me that's not enough to clean? I think What we need is some good organization. I I think being a young man, it would be nice that he able to access management training. How you can sit in management training. It takes a while. One day, 2 days is not enough
Mm,
because you're going to
and I'm
need
fast.
to understand how you get there's wealth in the city, there's money available, and how to go after that wealth and how to organize the resources to get things done. There's a lot he could learn, he could garner from Rhode Island, and I hope this is just the beginning of what we may see down the road. I'm just tired of handouts. Please give me. No, 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 no. I want to be able to do this myself.
Well,
Okay.
Look, here's the first thing you have to understand. This is not the beginning of anything, Jimmy. Okay? The first thing you have to understand, the mayor came by himself. The mayor did not come with a team. The mayor does not have an effective team. The mayor has not surrounded himself with technicians. Those are the technicians that should be out doing these visits. The mayor should be standing, watching, observing, taking some things in. The mayor come to Rhode Island. What so much are they going to tell the mayor that he will take back to Liberia and implement? There isn't much. We'll see the same thing happen again. I'm glad that the elections are next year. So we'll have a new president, we'll have a new mayor, and then we'll see how things are supposed to work.
Mr. Eastman, Mr. Padmo is dreaming here, and we know
Okay.
this. President Weah is going to be elected on the first ballot, first round for the first time. But this is why we were talking about 2010. I was in Liberia, and we discussed the same thing about garbage. And I took somebody from Waste Pro in Florida and went to Liberia to do some assessment. And the gentleman said the small waste management system will cost between $3 and $10 million. That is to build the whole system where people they don't just dump the trash, but trash separation in compartment and all of that. And the trash, on the other hand, could be sold and money coming back into the city.
Exactly. So you can generate money.
All of these things are things that I took and people want to look. But then when I looked at the budget that the city of Monrovia have for waste management disposal, it was $300,000. That's not even $1,300,000. Could not do anything. So I and these guys came and said, Mr. Gaiman, you wasted our time. $300,000 cannot do.
But this is why I say, Jerome, they should be able to generate their own income. There are things they can do to generate their own income. They don't have to wait for government to get them anything.
Well,
there are ways to do this.
This is where the private sector comes in and form what we call private-public partnership.
Exactly.
If Mr. Padmore and Mr. Eastman, Mr. Gaiman can get together and secure the commitment from the government that, listen, if these three gentlemen come here and put out this money and build this system, you allow them to run the system so they can generate their own funding.
Exactly.
If they can do that, that would be another way of doing it. So the ball is now in our court. I know. Mr. Padmore has a lot on the plate. Any other person who is listening, who wants to join to actually do a proposal that we all can go and say, listen, this is what we think you should do. This is what we can do. Give us, let's say, 5 years to put it in place and make sure it works. And then we go from there. That's what I think we should be doing in the diaspora, than to sit and wait on the government to do everything. I know we are running out of, we got 10 minutes here. Let's read about 5 comments. Let's read about 5 comments. Skip the derogatory one. Mr. Eastman, you go ahead and read.
I can where I am, I cannot read.
I need that glasses on.
Yeah. Oh no, now I can read.
Okay. Go ahead.
From Adolphus Brown, comrades are especially friends that you share a difficult or dangerous situation with. Okay, same goes. Socialists or communists sometimes call each other comrade, especially to meetings. I don't know your definition of comrade. Yeah, but we talked about it. Even the French
Yeah.
people, all of them call themselves comrades. The Russians just took it to another level. But yeah, it's a commonly used term for people in purpose together. Okay, and this is from Yuma. Let me try to get a little closer to this. You can tell that. Okay, this is from some Kranger.
Mm-hmm.
He said this so-called government is a criminal entity. They're beating students into comas. I will not put it past the criminal gangsters. Okay, this is from Patrick Kennedy. Mr. Padmo, what's wrong for the president to have his own private time? What's wrong with that, Mr. Padmo? Christopher Kamara, you guys will never discuss without talking about president personal life. I think that for you again, Mr. Padmo. Stephen Sla, every ministry should have a sub-ministry in every county. Thank you, Stephen. That's what we're saying. We have to decentralize. Thank you, Stephen. We agree with you 100%. Joyce Women. Where or Wim?
Loma get Wim.
Wim. Okay. So, Mr. Padmo, all of this should be done in less than 5 years. The president is a human with blood, and he is not one that gives Liberia independence. He is in his 50th, and Liberia is 175 years old. Well, he took the task, so I don't know about that. Yeah, again, Mr. Kranger, Mr. Eastman, please help me answer this question. What's the retirement age for those old men who can't leave our country, Unity Party? He said,
old folks.
I got here talking to OCC. What's the retirement age for these old men who can't leave our country? You know, Unity Party with your ANC.
That's right.
There is a retirement. Well, you got to ask them. It doesn't look like it's going away. And Vera Horace, less than 10 people attended the program. I think she's talking about the Koji program. Less than 10 people attended the program, and Koji was taken through the back door for her own security. Talo Kuyongba, very good. Keep ensuring that Koji meets no USA official. There it is, my people.
Robin, why you say bumper?
And then we have one.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, guys, okay. We got 7 minutes. Mr. Padmore, there were a few for you and
I'll just touch base on a few things I wrote down. So, so I don't have a problem with the president having his private time. Every human being needs to have some time to decompress. The problem comes when there's too much time. Monday, 11 o'clock a.m. on a Monday morning, you play basketball at the sports park. Monday morning? Come on now. 11 o'clock in Liberia, you playing basketball at the sports park. That's too much time. Like, what you doing on the weekend? You know, Saturday in the mosque, Sunday to your church, then Monday you go to the sports park. Come on now. You hardly go to work. Your work is at Jamaica Resort. Anybody want to come see you, they gotta go to the resort. We spend 55 million under the CDC government to renovate the mansion. You don't go to work. You don't go to work. It's too much. It's too much. Somebody else talking here about the whole comrade thing. Look, I'm not saying I know what comrade is, but the Russians kind of fashioned it, say, and the way they say it with a Russian tune, they say it with that Russian tune. They don't say comrade, in the English fashion, they say comrade, which comes from that kind of, they do it. It's out of ignorance. It's simple as it's out of ignorance, But it is what it is. It just shows that if we behave as adults, as the older people in the room, if we behave better, if we exemplify certain actions, the young people will follow. That all this shows to me, because they learned this when Tobana Tipote then came back to the country and they started wearing sandals and African shirt. You remember?
Yeah.
Both of you guys remember? Yeah. This is where it came from. This is where this came from. And the young people, 40 years later, are still following this. What this tells me is that if we show up now and we present a different way of acting and a different way of addressing problems, then the younger people that are watching us will follow that and leave this alone.
Thank you.
That's what that tells me.
Okay. Mr. Eastman, we're running out of time here.
Yeah, I would just be brief. I think a lot of problems we can solve ourselves. We can't expect anybody to solve our problems. It will not happen. Africa is designated to supply mineral resources. They don't want us to stop being an advanced nation where we produce our own goods. That's not their objective. Their objective is to get our minerals, get our gold, get our diamond, get all the resources, and they produce it. So if we think they will provide us a solution to emancipate ourselves from this state of poverty, ignorance, and disease, it's not going to happen. We will have to do it ourselves. And there's certain things, like I was mentioning, Monrovia has 1.5 million people. You can provide taxes and use those resources to clean Monrovia, to do many great things to Monrovia. We have the ability to do things, but we have to learn how to create wealth from what we have and stop the borrowing. It will never emancipate. It will never build us until we can build our own wealth.
Thank you. Let me recognize a few folks here before we go. We are running out of time. Christopher King, thank you. Seba Manigo, thank you. Smith Duet, thank you. My brother from Forestville, Grand Bassa County, Edward Hall, thank you for tuning in. Fix Electronics, thank you for tuning in. Vera Horace, thank you very much. Adolphus Brown, thank you. Tyler Kumaba, we appreciate you. It's a Uric Zwigli, thank you very much. Philibuli Kromar, Telvin Thompson, you Montreal Kringer, that's my cousin, by the way, my uncle's daughter. She hates my guts, but I love her. We have, who else we have here that I didn't call yet?
I want to hate you. She just disagree with you.
I know. Anasi Wallow, thank you very much for coming on. We love you. We see Mr. Bodukai, Kevin Bodukai, Foreign Gray, Christopher Kamara, George Lomagewin, thank you very much for coming on. Foreign Guy, Stephen Slay, Patrick Kennedy, Bele Okpangbai, Henry Doe. We got Matt in Liberia, make a difference in Liberia. I mean, Isaac Kofa, T. Go, Chris Walty Williams, Andrew Sando, Melvin Carter, and the list go on. Ladies and gentlemen, without you, there will be no show. We thank you for tuning in. Liberia belongs to us. Mr. Padmore is passionate about what the future should look like. Mr. Eastman is here. He balances the show. He gave us a historical perspective on where we have come from, where we can be, and how we can learn from our past to make our future great. Obviously, the president is doing the best he can. What we all need to do, that the president is coming, I think the opposition and the CDC, we all should get together in one room and speak to our president in a monotone, respectfully, and come up with questions and answers, come up with possible solution, come up with folks who are expert in certain areas, bring their expertise to the table, so we can have a genuine discussion, family talk around the table, without using vulgarity and doing all of this. That's not how you come to power. You win elections before you govern. But what most of the opposition are doing, they want to govern before they win, and it's in reverse. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Padmore, Mr. Eastman. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Sunday. Next Sunday we'll have Mrs. Doe here. She will come and brief us on how she's doing with the baby since our partner, I don't want to call him comrade, our partner Edward Doe passed a little over a year ago. So we want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, we say we are all Liberians. So please take us out with our theme song. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.